Welcome to the XY Advisor podcast, where it's our goal to help you become the best financial advisor possible and drive the positive evolution of financial advice.
On today's episode, we're continuing the conversation on how to nail the planning phase of an awesome advice business. So we've brought in XY legend and gun advisor James Millard to give us the sufficient funds story.
As you scale your advice business, are you frustrated with the amount of compliance, paperwork, and staffing issues? Virtual Business Partners specializes in helping financial services firms in 4 areas: admin, paraplanning, bookkeeping, and marketing. Virtual Business Partners work with you to get your business offshore ready. This includes identifying what tasks need to be done locally and what functions can be managed offshore. Advisors find they can reduce back office costs by between 50 and 75% and significantly improve their task turnaround times. For more information, go to virtualbusinesspartners.com.au.
All right, so I'm here with the one and only beach bum, Jimmy Millard. Mate, first question, is it true, because I heard a rumour that you, for the last 12 months, you've been in the Bermuda Triangle trying to find out that all the secrets and Jimmy Hoffa and all of that sort of stuff. Is that true?
Not at all, mate. I've been hibernating. I've bunkered down to deal with all the things in my life, including business.
Right. Okay. Well, I'm sure we'll talk a bit more about that. Thanks for joining me. This is part of the series on plan, produce, profit. So today we're talking all about planning with your business, how you set up your business plan. But before we get into that, I've got a few just sort of quick ones for you, just for the anyone that's been living under a rock that doesn't know the superstar that is James Millard. Time. So how long's your business been going?
So I became self-employed with 2 others 4 years ago, but 1 year in the new format, which is just me with my team.
And your blog.
And the blog's 3 years old, but it's about a year of vacant space at the moment because we've been building a business.
That tends to happen. So your team. So what does your team look like right now?
The team is me as the only client-facing member of the team, and then we've got Laura, who does a bit of everything. She's kind of head of client services, client experience. She looks after a lot of the initial client conversation, does a lot of marketing, does a lot of just all sorts of helping me behind the scenes. A lot of project work. If we're building a website or doing anything like that, she'll coordinate a lot of that part of it. And then we have one team member in the Philippines through 5L.
Oh, okay. How much time, because I know you got a young family, a couple little sprouts, a couple of beach bums. How much time do you spend in an average week working in or on your business?
It's like 12 hours a day, at least 6 days a week.
Right.
But those hours are not 8 till 8 or anything like that. It's often, it might be 6 till 5, 6 till 7, and then the full day, and then it might be midnight or 1 a.m. It depends on what's going on. Seriously. I frame clients up for that as well, because if you don't tell them you're going to email them at 1 a.m. and then they get one, it's kind of weird.
Haven't you heard of email scheduling? I think what they call that, boomerang. That's what I do.
Yeah, I don't know. I just let it go. But yeah, I mean, we do that a little bit, but sometimes I let them go late. That's okay, because we've got our client base to the point where they really know us fairly well.
Yeah.
And young family craziness and all the nuts that are going on behind the scenes.
They understand.
Yeah, they get it.
Yeah. Cool. What's your revenue?
We did 350 grand last year between home loans and planning, which is pretty much what we did the year before with 3 of us. So last year was about consolidating.
Yeah.
And yeah, we've had a kind of a serious month-on-month lift in the last 3 to 6 months. So things are getting a bit crazy now. We're just trying to figure out how we go forward from here.
Awesome. Well, I'm keen to dive into that a little bit deeper, but But just one last one quickly before we get into that. Who's your ideal client, and what is your solution?
So ideal client is the young single couple, family even, but typically they are, it might be they might be Manly based. We're national, so we kind of do a lot of virtual meetings, and we've got about 60% of our clients are national. But if you want to get specific,
do you consider Sydney on the right side of the bridge? Is that considered national, or is
that's interstate? Yeah, definitely. So we've got the 30-year-olds that are just figuring things out. They're on good money. They've saved plenty. They've either bought a place or not. They may be thinking about rent investing, getting the foundations in order, doing the spending plan, all of that type of thing. They've all got big goals. And so our model that kind of fits with that is our entry point is what we call our defined sufficient meeting. So sufficient funds being the business name, sufficient essentially meaning not a low cost or meager lifestyle. It's you defining your ideal life.
Yep.
And so I kind of overlay a fairly heavy coaching element to the planning and broking.
Yep.
And that's how we explain it to clients. So we do a lot of, so that first meeting, which is the entry point, it's $220.
Yep.
And we'll do it online or face to face if we can.
Right.
Essentially, obviously depending on location. And we'll get a bit of info up front. We'll do the fact find and get some dot points up front. They'll do it for us online. And then it's just an editable PDF. And we'll then use that 90 minutes to go really deep on goals.
Yep.
So really dig deep on not just ticking the box of figuring out what they want, but going further and challenging them on it and making sure it's really crystal clear. And so by the end of that meeting, we give them they've got the foundations in from our perspective so they can use that to then make those money decisions.
Yep. And so you do holistic planning, like fit in the lifestyle element. How do you achieve those goals? Cover everything. Also a bit of mortgage work as well. What's that sort of split look like from a business? From a revenue.
Revenue's 25%.
Broking.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So it's a smaller element, and we're kind of toying with what the options of what we do with it. To be honest, it's not that hard, but it is time consuming. So if you have the right team behind you, it makes sense.
Yep.
I wouldn't say to anyone go out and start it if you don't know what you're doing. I'd spent a lot of time managing teams of brokers. I hadn't done it myself until we started YOLO, the previous business.
Yep.
But managing teams in and around that property world and the mortgage world for a very long time. So I knew exactly what to do. It's just the ins and outs of it.
Yeah.
That would be the only way I'd ever recommend trying to do both, because otherwise it does sound crazy, and it still is sometimes.
Yeah. I know that's something that I get from other mates or colleagues, people that we've worked with clients before, that hard to find that line between the broking and especially when it comes to client engagement, but especially for people that start from the broking side, maybe more so, that they're going, well, where does the planning come in? Maybe it's a bit easier when you start from the planning side and then just go, well, there's a thing that needs to happen.
Exactly. Yeah. And I think for us, you do it right. You refer it out and you draw the line, and then you're giving your clients direction to a point around their banking structure.
Yeah.
And then a loan simply fits into it. I think it's easy to go the other way, but coming this way, maybe not so much.
Yeah. Yeah. And a lot of change in that space as well, right?
Yeah. Big time.
So tell us, give us a bit of your background and story. Touch on a few interesting points there.
If you want to hear the business stuff, we'll get there quickly. I'll give you the quick version. So a long time ago, I did a road trip around the States. I did a semester in Canada, met up with 4 mates, and we did a road trip, and this is where the business name came from. So we ended up we bought a Chrysler LeBaron, one of those beat up old wooden panel station wagons, and road trip the States. One of the nights before we were leaving, we were all out on the beers, and one of the boys pulled out the insufficient funds slip from the ATM. And a few days later, we printed up 100 T-shirts and 100 trucker caps to our new surf brand, Insufficient Funds.
Yeah.
And so that was the starting point of that road trip. We sold shirts, partly funded our trip. our plan was to never work a full-time job in our lives, and sell to Hurley.
Clearly, you're 12 hours a day, 6 days a week. You've conquered that.
Things have changed, yes. But that was where the idea of sufficient funds kind of came from. I was looking back on all of that, and so where the coaching element works with our clients so well is we've been through so much of what our clients are probably about to go through. I've got some older clients, and I love working with older clients as well. But as you have always bashed into me, the idea of having a niche makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
And so we finally adapted that and done it properly. And so, personally, I've got the background grew up in the corporate world, a fairly large boutique business, and I was at the point where I was managing big teams, managing a big client base, doing all sorts of holistic advice, but it was kind of close enough to the top to see that it wasn't the place I wanted to spend my future in, but not close enough to actually direct it. And so we made the leap. That was the leap in 2014-ish. Started the business early 2015 and took it from there.
You only live once, right?
Absolutely, mate. Absolutely. And that's still a message that I would implore you to adapt.
Very good. So tell me about, clearly, so you started YOLO, working with a couple of partners, and then you recently restructured to under the Sufficient Funds brand, working, sort of running things yourself. I know you're still with a good relationship with Blackie and Maz, legends. Shout out, boys. But so when you planned if we focus on Sufficient Funds, so you had a couple of bites, or almost in terms of the fact that I know that you've changed a few things with setting up Sufficient Funds.
Yeah.
Tell me about that journey. How you planned, what the service offering was going to look like, what the process was going to be. How did you approach all of that, and what were the key sort of? Yeah, actually, I'll ask you that one in a minute.
Sure. So, I guess I had the longer term view of, I think my strengths are the coaching rather than just the advice. And I think, I can be a mentor for my younger clients. I can take them through what we've been through. And I guess
that sounds super expensive.
Which part?
The mentoring for James Millard. My God.
Oh, I thought you meant for us to run it. Because it is. So I guess the idea is that coach model is where we're going. We're not there yet, but the idea is have the book, have the course, have a lot of automation around that entry level, and then provide advice at a premium level. And that advice, we're not there yet, but that is where it will cost a lot more, and it'll be wrapped around some fairly high touch type services, whether it's just the cash flow stuff, but also the, what are you working through and that type of thing. I don't have plans to be a life coach. I think you can't be both. I think it'd be very hard to do them both well. It is going to be heavily money focused, but it'll just be using those, the crossover between life and money decisions, which is obviously so blurred. So that's where we're going. And then I think taking a step back, the initial idea around the book was, that's when I started the blog, is start blogging to fill those chapters. So there's 35,000 words of complete mess at the moment, which I need to get in and bring it together and write a lot more before it gets shredded by the editor. And as you know, and bring it all out. But the steps there, and as I was working through that process and also thinking about the business at the same time, we started to look at what steps did we go through? What have we done personally? What have we had to deal with? And what do our clients go through? And so that's that kind of journey that we map out for clients from insufficient to sufficient funds.
Yeah.
And there's kind of 5 steps. It's define, which is figuring out your goals and all of that. Developing, so starting to build habits and so forth. Decluttering, getting rid of all the crap, automation and so forth there.
Yeah.
Trying to remember them all. Defend. I hope you forget one. defend, which is, a combination of things like obviously the insurance and being protected and making sure that all that's in order, but being able to prepare to make sacrifices when you need to. And a lot of that came off the back. Some of the stories came off the back of what we went through last year, bringing Eden into the world and having to drop everything for 3 months between Tash being in hospital for a month before it and then a month after it and all of that. So, that was a point where I just had to stop, which was nuts because we literally just started this business. But 3 months went by and I was apologising to clients left, right and centre, and thankfully we got good relationships. So that was all okay. But that was the defend element, and then finally deliver. Which kind of makes sense by itself. But I think the idea there is really time to let it flow. That's where you'll never be perfect, and sufficient funds in retirement. You can have that almost immediately if you go fast enough and you get it right quick enough. But it's that is then the ongoing process of making sure that everything's still ticking and working.
And most people, especially younger people, it's not about retiring. It's just about having the freedom to do what they want. I find, in fact, most people are anti that. They just want to be able to have the flexibility to, if go work for a charity for a year or go travel Europe for a year if they want to, and then do the thing. So how did you? So you come up with your steps, and it sounds like you mentioned you've got this engagement process, paid intro meeting, which I'm keen to explore in a little bit more detail as well. But how did you go about that, structuring your, the elements and the steps? What was was there a coaching program or a framework, or how did you?
So far it's literally just been plucked out of the air, and as part of, the story and bringing it all together and deciding on the elements that I thought needed to be in there. From a planning perspective, but also like we don't necessarily, I think it's important to note, we don't necessarily follow those identical steps when we take, it's not, this is where you'll start as a client and we're going to go through this planning process in the first 12 months or anything like that. It's, you're going to need elements of all of this. This is probably the journey you're going to go on or something like that. And these are all parts of what will probably arise. And as a result, this is the advice you're going to need. Right. Type thing. So yeah, I mean, that kind of highlights everything that's needed or that might be needed, or that for the people, the journey they're going to go through, the steps they're going to have to take, and the shit they're going to have to deal with. Ultimately. But then taking a step back, we still follow a fairly traditional process from an advice perspective. Is after that defined sufficient meeting, we quote them to work together, build a plan, and then an ongoing service.
And how do you charge?
So we charge, we give them a fixed price quote, but we do take commissions on insurance.
Oh yeah, sweet comms, love it.
Remember that time I talked to you out of taking fund percentages?
Oh yeah, it's great, and that's it. We're fully fee only and haven't looked back. But
love your work.
It's definitely a journey, and it's it means that you have to charge more and you get more pushback, and
for sure
people go, like I said, someone's $10,000 and they go and they say $10,000, and then it's like, well, yeah, but like, well, I could say $5,000 and then I could take $7,000 of insurance cost and be happy with that. But yeah, and so and for where we're at, and also the fact that we wrap in the mortgages into the process, we can handle those clients at the lower level, but we have to figure out a way of helping them from a planning perspective. And so that's our challenge. Is do we drop it at some point? Probably. But it's a work towards rather than a just wait. That's the key until you have to do something.
So we're prepped. We're prepped for that if we had to. But it's, at the moment, it's where it makes sense. We do absolutely do fee for service. If they're super low, low premiums and stuff, and it's not going to make so much sense that they can't afford it otherwise, but we're helping them with the home loan anyway. We'll do it. Because the importance of getting protected and actually making sure that something's in place, even from, we talk to clients as young as, early 20s usually, that one little slip up and they never work again. And I don't have to tell you that, but
I think the unfortunate thing about the fee only basis is that it does knock a fair few people out for for insurance. Like we can deliver it for $2,000, but we can only do it because we're already charging $5,000. So, I think that element is an unfortunate consequence. Although that being said, I think the technology, as technology evolves, True. Then I think it shouldn't be for us to need to do a lot of that stuff. I think, so I think that will come.
Yeah.
So with your service offerings, are there sort of levels, or are there, so you quote, so it's sort of like bespoke to a degree, but are there different?
To a degree, we're getting to the point where it's going to be packaged, and I think we're kind of at that point now. We've built out the cash flow service where we hadn't really done that before. Yeah. Cash flow previously was work on the budget, get a clear budget, and get banking structure coming off the back of it, and then review it, but not monitor it. And so we're now building into that using MoneySoft, the ongoing service.
Oh yeah.
And so we're going to have kind of 3 levels, I guess. So if we're doing a plan for a client, and that is a holistic plan usually, there'll be cash flow as part of it. And so they've got the option to, from an ongoing perspective, it'll be 3 steps. So 1 is full face-to-face quarterly reviews, all the ongoing reporting and so forth. The middle option will be a virtual option.
Oh yeah.
And the bottom option is kind of more DIY. So yeah, we've done a bit of work with Steve Crawford and looked at that stuff with him, but we're building it out and tweaking it and making it kind of work for us.
Nice. Yeah, I think the service packages are so valuable from a clarity perspective, from a client point of view. I find that we've been doing it and we've changed our packages, but since I started Pivot in 2015, that what it means, what you give up is that you're giving up a bit of the flexibility to adjust things, and it always means if you've got clear packages, some people will be take less time to fit into the framework, and some people will take more time, and you've got to sort of suck that up. And I don't know that there's the solution. What we do is that if someone takes heaps of time, we just say to them, hey, you've taken heaps of time. Now we're going to charge you more.
Yep.
And I've never had a single client push back on that.
Are you guiding them at the front end into what package they should be in?
We only have one package.
You got the one?
Yeah, we just have one. Although I'm about to have because I've got one, and then for people that are really complex or people with lots of money, then I've just been going, it's double.
Yeah. Okay.
Or it's more, it depends. So I think, so going forward, I'm thinking about doing because we've been doing a bit around the tech startup, the new rich. So there's 30-year-old multi-millionaires,
for sure.
Where there's, when you're trying to deploy, $4 or $5 million, there's a lot of options, a lot of time that goes into that. So we're about to sort of step that up. But it won't be really something that I think we will just pick and just say that's the option.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's what we do, one package for people.
Yeah.
Now, when I started, so we were on the early stage for the no com on the insurance. So we split out the thing, and then it was we had a super package, super insurance package.
I remember all those crazy packages, man.
Yeah.
I don't know how you did it.
Yeah. I don't know. Well, it worked.
Yeah.
That was the evolution, right? So
the evolution, because I remember when you posted that on the Facebook page, and it was super detailed and so much to it, but you could see that you'd taken a lot of the complication out of it over time.
Yeah. Well, now I just have one package. One package, one fee, and the only add-on is insurance, really. So
good.
But I find that for clients, that they just go, oh yeah, that's the thing. It gives them clarity on what to expect. Now I tell them the fee before they come in.
Yeah.
Which I found for conversions.
Yeah.
So it allows you. I think it allows you to explain that. I was just chatting to Jess and Glenn from Fox and Hare just before, and their packages as well, and it's the same that you can put it on your website, you can put it in your marketing material, and people go, oh yeah, they can almost self-select.
Yep. And you can be like the Netflix or the Stan, where, and from our perspective, where we want to go with that is just the upgrade, downgrade, opt out, It's super flexible. They're never going to leave, but they will, they might, but most of the time they don't. And when you set it up that way with all the flexibility in the world, it just makes sense to them as well.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. So tell me, sounds like you've got a clear engagement process with the paid meeting. How have you evolved? How has that sort of evolved, and how have you ended up? What are the learnings along that journey?
So, well, I mean, it just came down to the fact that because we do work remotely, and I work from home a lot of the time. We do video meetings for interstate, but we're seeing clients face to face in Sydney without an office. So it's either in the city, in Manly, or somewhere in between. And we were just killing time. I actually didn't spend a lot of time doing it. I just decided not to do it anymore and start to charge for a meeting, which just instantly got rid of the tie kickers. I've always had a fairly high conversion rate with those meetings, and I think it's because I put so much effort into the relationship of it and digging deeper on those goals. And it's always been that it just comes naturally to me. I think some of it isn't necessarily coachable, but it's just how I am. So when we have those discussions, I'm just naturally interested. I want to see what makes people tick. But when you ask those questions, people suddenly see that you care. And so once you've got that, they're generally signing up. But it's just nicer not to be driving to Penrith or somewhere like that to figure it out. You're getting paid for it, and as soon as they pay, they're like, oh, should I come to Manly? We could probably get there. Maybe we could do it on a Saturday morning. Is that cool? Like, we'll do a Saturday meeting. We'll go to the breakfast and have these defined sufficient means are fairly relaxed. And most clients are happy to do it wherever. And I'm definitely happy to do it. We've done it. Like there's an RSL that's brand new right near us called the Diggers, which is up on the hill near Freshie. It looks over Curl Beach.
Oh, nice.
And there's no one there on a Saturday morning. And so big tables, plenty of room, no one around. It's awesome. Nice. So we've done a few meetings there. One of our really good clients just came on board recently, and we just did a meeting in the back of the Diggers. So things like that, we're fairly flexible with that stuff. But what we've learned, the charging instantly gets rid of the tie kickers and makes sure that people are actually committed. We send them the fact find. I send them the fact find before it, and that gives us some dot points on their goals as well. So we use that then to so Laura will take whatever they give us, map it out so that I can then build on it in the meeting, and we're just typing straight into just the Google Doc.
So full fact find before the session.
Not a massive one, so we build on it later. But it's detailed enough. So we tell them to ignore the super insurance because we're going to research it anyway. Tell us what your member number is, but other than that, it's just getting assets, liabilities, basic details. Not full fact find, and then we build on it and send it out for signing afterwards.
Right. Okay. Cool. And I think it's a funny thing that when you put the value up, and then the people automatically they put the value up as well. Where I think the more you
big time.
Oh yeah, I'll come to you. Oh yeah, I'll do this. You start working outside the scope. And I know that's something we've been found a bit recently with Ray coming into the business, and I'm a bit more because I'm a bit more time stretched. So I'm just like inflexible. I'm like, well, no, that's it. But he would be he'd try and bend the process a little bit to cater for people, but they end up wasting your time or being difficult or not doing the things. They're not the sort of clients that you want to work with. So I think it's a great move like that. You're giving yourself authority as the leader, because you need to do that to have any sort of successful advice relationship anyway.
Absolutely. So we went through the process of starting with, we'll do your mortgage, we'll do your insurance, we'll just do an investment plan, and we'll just do this. And it was crazy, but that's all we knew. And I was doing that for 2 or 3 years. And you just end up completely scattered every day. You get it done and you make it work and cop it, but it is a lot harder to manage client expectations and deliver and consistently. You're constantly bouncing from one step to another with clients. And so we went through that process and pare it back, make it clear, define it, and just have that one entry point to the business. So we'll do risk only advice as an entry point if that makes sense to do it, if that's really what they need, but usually we push them to the defined sufficient meeting instead.
Yeah.
Another benefit that's given us is from a mortgage broking perspective. All the time, clients will come in and say, well, I don't know if I want to buy or invest, buy to live, owner occupied or investment.
Yeah.
I've got the deposit, I'm ready to go. But for me in Sydney, I've got 200 grand. It's taking me out to the northwest. I really want to live in the inner west. What do we do? And instantly we have a defined sufficient meeting. We go through it.
Yeah.
We figure it out.
Yeah, I think it as well that, and I had previously before I started Pivot Wealth, we would work with clients and they'd come in with an issue and it's like, oh, I need to fix up my super, or that would be the selling point, the trigger that did something. And, it can work, but it also is a much more difficult way. And you don't really understand the client that well, which makes it difficult. Then you can't identify, because naturally that if you're a good advisor, then you're able to go, there's a consideration there. Oh, you don't know IP owner occupied. Oh, when was the last time you reviewed your mortgage? Or what about that? Oh, you need to, and they all sort of tie in together. So if you're doing that, you're getting a deeper understanding of the client situation, and it allows you to sort of triage the things that are going to
big time
to work better for them.
And I mean, we've always had that philosophy. If I don't know you, I can't help you. And just really dig. And it's the way of selling that first meeting as well, is you just explain that you guys should not be making financial decisions until you're crystal clear on why you're doing it.
Yeah.
And what it's going to do for you.
Absolutely.
And that is very powerful. Like I've had clients in tears at the end of those meetings, or a little bit, not too much.
That happens all the time, mate.
But like happy tears, thinking about, she's like, we've never sat down and written out our goals like this. We've never thought about it like this. Wow, now it all makes sense. And they don't always go that well, but sometimes they do. And you've just spent a lot of time not talking about money. And the next step is you tell them it's going to be $5 or $6 or whatever, and they pay it straight away. Not even a question.
Yeah, I think it's I've got a mate, Duncan Fish, he runs a company called The Engaging Executive, which is sort of like, personal communication skills, but mainly for more introverted people.
Yeah.
But he's a behavioral psychologist and super switched on when it comes to,
are you working with
that sort of stuff? We're actually, we've got the same business coach, so we're in a coaching group together.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, I am an introvert. I just taught myself out of it. I could have used his program when I was struggling through 10 years ago, but you sort of learn the skills. But he actually talks about his functions. He talks about the relationship building, and I won't even try to do it because I won't get it right. But he talks about basically where it's like you talk about the weather and chit chat and small talk and all that sort of crap. But and then it's like this reverse pyramid. And the last thing is when you're getting into the whys and the motivations. And he tells his story about how he asked his taxi driver while he was driving taxis, and then he ended up going back to India to start a business or something.
Yeah.
But it was all because he was like, well, why is that important to you? And I think that those goal sessions, it allows you to really get into that for sure. And then you're building deep relationships because you're getting to know people's true motivations. You're not talking about the weather anymore or the super fund or the other thing. It's really the elements that are going to allow you to deeply understand someone. And it's only when they, know, like, and trust, they say you need to know to get the rest. So I think that's it. That's a clear linchpin.
And for those out there, if anyone's thinking about doing this, like the reason it's worked so well for us recently is you're actually separating it and you're not talking about money. Like, yes, at the end you have to bring it in or they'll never pay you for a financial plan, but you've got to link it all up. But the starting point in a good hour of that hour and a half is no money talk. Apart from maybe saying, well, how much is that going to cost you?
Yeah.
When do you want to do it?
Yeah.
But that part of it and just making it completely separate, even though you're the financial advisor. Firstly, it surprises them, but it's definitely makes them a lot more engaged.
Awesome. And so tell me, so you're 12-ish months in. What's changed since you started?
Mate, we're seriously changing all the time.
More about the service model, so like the advice.
So that everything I've just talked about with the defined sufficient means we've been adapting that over the last 6 months, probably since January. We've charged for them since we started, but we weren't always doing them.
Yes.
And so it wasn't becoming consistent. Now that I'm seeing, I'm doing probably one a week now. It just gives you the ability when you've got that momentum to properly build it out and test it. So that was the other thing I was finding when we didn't have as many clients coming in. It was, and we're doing a bit of everything.
Yeah,
you're not doing the same thing twice.
Yeah,
you might do it once a month. An insurance application once a month or twice a month, rather than every week. And so even just that part of that process and smoothing that part out has been something that's come with the momentum, the consistency that we've got now.
Yeah, it gives you a real opportunity to see where are the issues, where are the opportunities.
But that goes back to the niching idea, and I can't believe I'm telling you how good this is now. But if you're only doing one thing, you get very good at it, right?
Yes.
And even if you don't have a heap of clients, if you've just started the business, you're just doing the same thing for all of those clients, basically, without it being cookie cutter. You're following similar processes. So
yeah, it's the same process. I know for us that we have different clients, different advice.
Yep.
But the process is always the same, and that is really what allows you to drive efficiencies in the back end with the guys. I know, we've had a couple of people join on the CSO, client success admin side, and it's only by having one process for every single client that we're able to build it out with all the tools to tell them what to do. But then they can walk in day one and say, step one, you file that there, do that like that. I should do it. So
also stops all that shoulder tapping, right? So you're not getting hit up for it.
For sure. And I think that it's partly the packages. We were talking about packages before, that ties in with it, that you can have different process per package if you need to. But then again, it's crystal clear. And you can, the other part is the client experience, that you can give a consistent client experience and optimize that. And ultimately, it means that you can you can either charge less or have a better margin than if you're trying to do self-managed super fund one day and business owner another day,
exactly,
life insurance only the next day. That it's a constant sort of changing things up, and it's very difficult to be efficient unless you've got a really big business where you can say Bob does
there's a team that just does one thing.
Sally does the rest. So tell me, what it's a bit hard, I suppose, that you're only 12 months in, but what would you have done differently if you could go back?
I'd spend a bit more time on the model, building those packages out, and just getting really clear and not doing so much on the fly. So I'm naturally, I like the challenge, and I think as a result of that, I don't over engineer anything. But that leaves me scrambling, right?
No,
but I don't mind that, and I actually enjoy it. I was fixing up an SOA right before I called you before, and the client was in the waiting room. Like it was just things like that. That doesn't bother me. That's how I kind of thrive. But that does lead to naturally not engineering things to the point that they should be. And so from a process perspective, we're getting a lot better at this is how we do it every single time.
Yeah. Plus it means that you have to do it yourself. It's very difficult to put your team under that sort of pressure to 100%. Say, the person's in the waiting room, can you just tidy up that thing? You're likely for someone to blow a gasket.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly right. So we're working on that part. But other things we do differently. You hear this a lot, but I would hire earlier. We made the mistake of canning when we were wrapping up YOLO and moving from 3 partners to me. I didn't think I'd be up for taking on that extra, and she was on part-time at the time, resource. And this was through FireDog in the Philippines, and it was literally a month later I turned around and hired them. And so we lost the one we had, and then got another one, and then another process went through. And so mistakes like that of just thinking the worst as far as cash flow, and being like, I was super nervous about whether we were going to be able to pull it off with Tash still not working, and personally needing to pull money out of the business to live, because Tash was on maternity leave and all of that side of things. So there was a balancing process there, and all of a sudden it was very clear that we could put more on, and we're at the point now where we probably need to be putting at least one CSO role on, and maybe bring a mortgage broker in, and then potentially look at an advisor within the next 6 to 12 months. It's just I was mapping it out on the weekend and just working out what those roles exactly look like, and how we're going to fill them. Yeah, and which one comes first.
It's a very difficult one. I think that the team, once you get your service model nailed and plan around that, it's the team is the next real challenge. It's something that we've been working through in the last year. But you do all these things and you do all this work, and then you start building this momentum, and then you have to scramble to do the work with the team, and then it's hard to find time to hire. It's hard to find time to train. Sure. I know that for us last year from July, we were crazy busy, and we're like, crap, we need to hire someone. We've got enough money that we can hire someone, but we didn't. It takes time to find good people as well. Yep. You said you had, false start with was that you or
yeah.
And then then you have to reset. And I know with Luana joined us she started in January, but we started recruiting for her in, I think it was August or September. Yeah. And then you find them, and then it's
for sure.
Yeah. So it's a difficult balancing.
And for us, it's a little bit different. And I don't know if it's positive or negative as far as the pool of people that could be out there, but being remote and planning on staying remote at this point in time will be essentially, it could be the army of stay-at-home parents.
Yeah.
Right. And it's those people that have been in the industry. They know what they're talking about. They don't need to be essentially trained. They're probably not maybe looking for progression, at least for that CSO type role at the moment. But they know what they're talking about. Yeah. And they don't want to go back to an office. They've got kids to pick up in the morning. And so we're thinking, how do we tap that? Yeah. So we just got to be a bit more creative, I think, around.
I think there are a bunch of services out there that do that these days. Isn't there one for like Facebook group, Northern Beaches Mums or something like that?
So you got to be careful. You tread carefully in those mums groups.
Yes, indeed. Cool, man. Well, look, that's great. I think a lot of good tips for planning. What do you think? What's the one most important thing that someone needs to get right to plan an epic service proposition?
Make sure it really relates to who you are as the business. If you're, or the advisor, if it's just you and you're just starting out, get really clear on who you are, why you're doing it, and then bring it all together. Have a good backstory, and make it make sense so that you're literally living the life that you want to live while you're helping the clients do the same thing.
Love it. Cool. And a couple of quick ones. Biggest oops moment or stuff up? Have you ever made a mistake?
Over and over and over again. No, we don't do this. We don't make the same mistake twice usually. Yeah. It's definitely the hiring stuff. So just like letting someone go when we should have just kept them, and then building from there.
Yeah. Best piece of advice you ever received?
Just go for it. Good question.
Just do it. That might be copyrighted, I
think. I guess, look, it's being self-employed. You freak out about a lot of things, and then you've got to balance your life as well, and you're trying to bring it all together. The understanding that if you just give it a crack, most of the time it's going to work out, and so leap right in and get it done.
Back yourself, lean in. Love it. Top tip for team?
For building a team? Just, for us, it's been make sure we find people we trust. Like Laura, I can trust her to work remotely and she'll get it done. It's, whatever hours she needs to do, the work's done. So find people that you can trust, especially if you're trying to build a remote team. And businesses like 5L that you can trust to do it all behind the scenes that kind of take the time off you.
Awesome, man. Last question. What is your spirit animal?
Dolphin.
In true Northern Beaches style, Mr. Millard, thank you very much for joining us, mate. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you, Ben.